Yo, yo, my sovereigns, what up? This is Boba Fett, uncensored on the internet. And welcome to episode 3 of Splinterlands 101 with our co-host for the show, Matt Clark.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy. And this episode, we're going to be giving a generalization, a broad covering of the cards in general. So we'll cover the splinters, a little bit of attributes, a little bit of gameplay. But in future episodes, we will be dedicating an episode to each of the splinters and an episode dedicated to attributes. But tonight we just want to give you a generalization for the thing that always gets you when you're trying something new, or even if you've been around for a while. The thing that always gets you are the things that you don't know that you don't know. So we just might casually mention something. You go, oh, what's that? And if that happens, you can look that up yourself, or you can comment below. And remembering there is a curation contest that we run for each episode. Every week, a viewer will earn 10% of the post rewards for being the comment which receives the most engagement. So anything we cover tonight, any questions, suggestions, feedback, anything at all, comment below. So Matt, let's I think I might just sit back for most of this episode, because on a knowledge base, it's like you're the king of what we're covering tonight. So just where do you want to start?
Well, cards. I think if we go back to, I do tend to find when I'm talking, I feel like I'm occupying all the hogging it all. But it's all in good fun. The cards, and goodness knows I've spent 3 years immersing myself in this game and talking about it and learning about it. So the cards, I think if we go back and say this is not a regular card game, if you look at Magic the Gathering or one of those physical card games, they have issues with things like forgeries. They have issues with things like you pull a card, you don't know how rare it is. I mean, you might know its % chance of being pulled, but you don't know how many packs are out there, how many have been opened. You don't know. Now, because Splinterlands is entirely on the blockchain, you know all of these things. So I could, pull up right now and say, let's look at the new Bakjira card, which I'm really enjoying. It's only recently come out, but you can know exactly how many are in circulation. And you can even look up which accounts hold them, right? So you know about rarity, and rarity is important when it comes to these card games. And rarity and scarcity really drive up the value of cards. So what the devs have done with Splinterlands is they've said we want to have a lot of cards, but we're going to have a burn mechanism, which is very common in crypto projects. So the burn mechanism is to say we're going to get rid of a whole lot of them, a few or a whole lot, and that will make the ones that exist more scarce, more rare, more valuable. Anytime you burn one, you're basically giving a scarcity boost to all the others. So in some games you'll play your card and you'll level it up through gameplay, right? Your character or your sword or what have you will increase or gain XP and get new levels and new abilities as you play. Cards in Splinterlands is very different to that. What you need to do is you need to take multiple copies of the same card and combine them together, and that burns all but one copy of the card. But that remaining copy, what's left, is now at a higher level. Well, if you burn enough of them, it's then at a higher level. So that is, we call that combining. Don't actually burn a card. Separate to that, there is the capacity to burn a card, which swaps it for dark energy crystals, which is it's what we call its burn value. So don't just go burning cards. But I guess from a meta perspective, when you combine cards, what you're doing is you're burning all but one of them. And making that type of card far more scarce. And so there's actually burn charts that you can look up in the Discord. You can actually track as a card edition is being released and new packs are being sold. then they're being opened, you'll increase the total number. You'll see an increase in the total number of that card available. But as people open them, find them, sell them to each other, and then combine them into a higher level version of that card, you can see the total number available dropping. So it's not uncommon to see that two cards will actually, one will become, even though they're from the same edition, one will become more scarce and another will become less scarce over time, as they're each being added to the ecosystem and each being pulled out of the ecosystem around the same time, but at different, slightly different rates. So that's something, I guess, to consider with cards and scarcity. You don't need to worry about swapping your doubles. So if you have, if you're playing Pokemon or something like that, you pull a card and, oh yeah, I've already got 4 of these. Okay, now I've got to trade for something that I want. Now I've got to trade for something else or sell it and then buy. Whereas you need to be assuming that you want to play at max level, and that's a whole other, I guess, conversation. Each person really wants to decide what kind of level, what league they want to play in long term. Are you going to aim to max out your cards and compete in Diamond and Champion, which is the maximum level, or somewhere lower, bronze, silver, gold, where your cards, where you can fight with cards that aren't as high level because the league limits what the summoner level can do, and the summoner limits what card level can be. So you can play in the kiddie pool or you can play in the deep end, and you kind of want to work out reasonably quick where you want to be, because when you're combining these cards, if you want to get up to max level, that's going to take you a long time, especially if you're winning reward cards in chests or that type of thing. You'll get them, but it can be up to 400 cards required to combine to make one max level card. So they're all different. Each different rarity has its own different combine rates. Typically, the rarer a card is for you to pull, the less chance there is that it'll pop up. The fewer copies you'll need in order to combine them to max out. So these, at the moment, we've got the Chaos Legion one I've been looking at is the Fiends, which is the new 0 mana legendary cards. So all they cost you is a slot, one of your 6 slots in your team lineup. And so for low mana matches, it's always great to have those 0 mana cards around, because just like the chicken's an older one, the Furious Chicken, he's 0 mana. But until these new cards came along, the chicken was the only 0 mana card. And so if you have it, then it's just an extra hit that can be absorbed, or it's just a handy thing to throw in there. It can backfire too if you're not careful. You can feed an opposing scavenger. Maybe that 0 mana card or that chicken, or that can backfire. But now I'm getting into gameplay.
Yep.
So as to cards, so these cards, the regular foil legendary themes that cost 0 mana to play, they take 11 copies to combine to max one out, to get it to full max level, where that's it. Now no more can be combined into it. It's now at a max level card, and it can play at the highest levels in the competition. They also get an ability. Each of them gets an ability at that level, at max level 4. So legendaries only go up to level 4. Rares go up to level 8. Epics go up to level 6, which was legendaries, epics, rares, and then commons. So it's level 4, level 6, level 8, and level 10. So commons get up to level 10, which is their maximum level, but then you're combining a whole lot. So it's around 400 to combine a regular foil common up to max level. That's about 400, and a gold foil, I'm not sure, substantially less. You can look all this up on the stats page of each card. But yeah, so the number of cards that you need to combine in order to get to max level is substantially reduced. So it's definitely something to take into account. There is a handy tool which I might get you to edit in when you're doing this, when you're organising the replay. There's a tool, peakmonsters.com, which is very handy. You can choose the card that you want to look at and compare the cost to max it in regular foil and gold foil. And if the price isn't that much different, because the gold foils cost more, but you need fewer of them to combine, you see. Mm-hmm. So it's always worth, if you're going to look at getting a card to whatever level, whether you want to aim for level 6 or you want to aim for level 10 for a common, obviously, then you almost definitely want to just take a minute, go to Peak Monsters, look it up, peakmonsters.com, look up that particular card on the market, and then look at the gold foil and the regular foil version side by side, and you hit the little bulk button, and it will say how much it would cost you to buy, based on the cards that are listed right now, to buy enough to get to whatever level you like. There's a chart there. It's, you know, all the different levels up to max. And by way of, I guess, demonstration, or yeah, as an example of that, when the Failed Summoner came out, this is a while ago now, probably 18 months ago, when the Failed Summoner came out, and I like the look of him, I went and checked the prices. The regular foil to max him was $23. Gold foil to max him was $9.
Wow, that's quite a difference.
That is quite a difference. I'm very glad I checked. So because having a gold foil version gives you more scope to into gold foil tournaments and the like, so you can use it more, and you can also get anytime you win with it, you get a 10% dark energy crystal bonus for fielding a gold foil card. You know, all things being equal, you're going to want the gold foil version instead of the regular foil. Usually there's a premium for that, but in this particular case, because I just took a minute to check, obviously I dived on the $9, maxed out my gold foil, and I would have used him at least 5,000 times since then. Actually, and you know, if I win half of them, that's 2,500 times I've got a 10% dark energy crystal bonus, just because I took a minute to check peakmonsters.com market and go and have a look at it side by side, regular foil, gold foil, check bulk, and have a look, compare the prices.
Yeah, down the track, I think it might even be worth doing an episode specifically on Peak Monsters. I do use Peak Monsters myself, but you know, I've got to be honest. I know I'm not using it effectively anywhere near to what. And again, it's the things I don't know that I don't know.
Agreed, and I'm not either, to be honest. When it comes to things like managing rentals, they have so many tools that you really need to, you know, go and investigate, click around and see what actually is in here, because there are so many different ways that you can improve your gameplay and also the value and the quality of your cards. Yeah, just by familiarizing yourself with peakmonsters.com. So yeah, definitely open to doing a show just on that.
Yeah, and it'd be just on the rental side, because like at the moment, every day I check with Peak Monsters, because as soon as the page loads, right at the top, I can see what percentage of my card's being rented. So for example, on any given day, I've got approximately 300 to 320 DEC a day from rentals. And I'll open up and it'll say rentals 270 of 320. So straight away, I know, okay, I've got some cards that aren't being rented. And I'll check and I'll see, okay, the values come down a little bit, or some other little snipper has undercut. Because now, obviously, if you want to rent a card, you're going to grab the cheapest one, right? So you get some people who undercut you. So then I've got to go in and reduce my price. And also, another thing is, now towards the end of the season, everyone wants to get into the next league. You might find that a card that I'm renting out is actually worth a lot more now, because it's a higher demand for it. So if I'm not checking on Peak Monsters, now I could be like this has happened, like with my Selena Skies, and this figures I'm about to give it varies daily, so don't see this as an ongoing thing. But like 30 DEC a day, and when I check towards the end of the season, it's renting for like 50 DEC a day. So you know, sometimes it's really worth checking. And I'm sure that I'm not doing that the most efficient way. I'm sure there's a better way to doing it, but no, again, just
yeah, and that's we can certainly touch on the rental stuff and I'm no expert in the rentals. I've got a whole lot of cards that I've stockpiled for years, and I just throw them up there, and very rarely do I go in and look at my pricing or my occupancy. It's, you know, I've had a few people tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, have a closer look, but I figure I'm making a ton of money out of this with the SPS airdrop vouchers and the like. So I kind of don't really want to maximize my rentals, you know, get in there every day and tweak them and undercut the other guy. And it's like, you know, you got to leave some stuff on the table, you know. So I just tend to, you know, every month or so I'll go and have a look, and this one hasn't rented in a long time, and you know, this one's clearly, you know, overpriced or what have you. I think Yeah, we'll talk about rentals in
Yep.
the rental show. Otherwise,
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So in the actual cards themselves, we've got the 5 splinters, and when you do daily quests, quite often the quest will say you must use a particular splinter. Like, for example, today's quest is death. So you must win 5 games using the death splinter. Some of the quests are related to an attribute. So you can use any suit that you like, but you must play at least a card that has, for example, snipe or opportunity. So, and this keeps the game interesting, keeps you thinking, keeps you. Otherwise, you're going to get a favorite hand, and you're just going to keep playing the same hand over and over. There's no fun in that. So it really keeps it interesting with that variety. So, do you want to just maybe go into a little bit about each of the splinters and how maybe? And I don't know this myself, but are certain splinters better for certain attributes, or like, for example, I usually find if I've got a quest or a battle rule with a really low mana, with the cards that I've got, I generally find that I get a better hand from fire for a low mana set than others. Now, I don't know if that's just because of the cards I'm holding or if that's a general fire thing. Maybe if we could go into a little bit about the different suits. Yeah.
Yeah. So the different splinters, when you're doing a daily quest, it requires that you choose a summoner from that splinter. That's the deciding factor. So if it says you've got a fire quest, you can't choose a dragon summoner and then the fire splinter to go along with it. It needs to actually just be a fire summoner. And then you can use fire and neutral cards for a fire quest. There are the other quest types are, as you mentioned, you've got to win 5 battles with at least 1 snipe card, with at least 1 sneak card. I don't think there's an opportunity quest, but we have been pushing for opportunity to be included, as well as other different quest ideas. And the other one is no neutrals. So you need to play without using creeping ooze, without using chicken, without using any of those neutral cards. And generally you'll forget, and then you'll kick yourself, and you'll get that win that you needed. And hang on, why didn't I get the little?
Yeah, I do that all the time. I chuck the chook on the end. And then I go, it's no neutrals.
Yeah, we've all been there. It's just like playing the creeping ooze in reverse speed. And why did I put him in? He sped up my whole team, which just slowed them all down. And we've all been there, and that's just part of the game. And that's only 3. You only need to win 3 with no neutrals, because it is quite a big handicap. So, so the different splinters, So fire is about hitting hard and fast. So fire is about speed. It's largely about melee. And it's about just going in strong, hard, and fast. They generally don't have much in the way of armor, very little in the way of heal or repair. They're not about longevity. If with a fire team, if you haven't basically decimated the enemy in the first round or 2, you're probably not going to win, right?
Okay.
Water is more about magic. So they're very much revolved around magic, whether it's the summoners that, and more about doing magic damage, kicking out the magic damage. They're not particularly fast, but it's water is all revolving around magic. Earth is a lot of healing, a lot of high health, high heal. You need to really, hit them hard, hit Earth hard, because otherwise they'll just heal themselves out of difficulty, out of problems. So a lot of healing, bit of life leech, not a heavy focus on speed or armor, just very very healthy cards that you really got to hack away at to get through. White is all armor. It's all armor, fortification, very defensive. They do have a few decent offensive cards. Obviously, you need to do the damage as well, but there's a lot of repair that you'll find on which is fixing up armor. So lots of armor, lots of repair of armor. There's a lot of resurrect in the life team, which I guess being life, there's a lot of resurrect there. Makes sense. But they are very difficult to get through. They're a hard nut to crack, I think, is life. Death is about sapping, I guess, sapping and destroying. So you weaken your opponents, you poison them, you'll afflict them so they can't heal themselves, you slow them down. So death is not about power output. It's about giving your pestilence. It's about giving your opponent just a really bad day. And then just picking through the scraps. So again, death isn't high health themselves, but there's a lot of ways they'll ruin your day. So I'll often I'll load up a team against Death, and Death isn't a big focus of mine. It's just that's always been my weak Splinter, with cards and also with gameplay. But often I'll line up against Death, and then I'll I realise that my 2 and 3 damage cards that I've got all lined up ready to go. He's ready to do a lot of magic damage, and she's ready with her bows and arrows, and then. By the time all the debuffs get added from all the Death abilities, they've reduced my melee damage by 1. Oh, they've reduced my incoming magic damage by 1, or my outgoing magic damage by 1, and my range damage. And now I've got these, all these 2 and 3 damage cards are now just doing 1 damage each. And it's very much about. Death's almost like that dream, where you try and swing a punch, but you can't sort of hit the guy, but it's going too slow, and then you just kind of miss. But then it's you're trying to run away, but you can't really run away. It's very, very.
The never-ending corridor.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not uncommon for me to look at the Death lineup and go, oh yeah, no, I think I'm going to beat these guys. And then when all the debuffs land, and I'm actually slowed down and can't hit that hard, and actually I'm not going to be able to heal, and my cards don't have all the health I thought. So there are builds. There was one. Gee, it was funny. It was a low mana match. I really, sometimes I should have saved it. I would have given you the link, but it's a popular strategy. Low mana match, you tend to pick a lot of cards, right? So you just want to have a lot of cards generally, and sometimes you don't, but often that's a whole lot of cards. And so I picked probably 6 cards that were all quite low mana, so low health. And it was a no armor rule set. So they've all got, only 2 or 3 health each, no armor. And my opponent played, what was it? I can't think of the name of it now. So one of the Death cards, it's got an ability that when it dies, it does 1 damage to all opposing cards. Really can't.
I don't think I've come across that one.
Yeah.
Is it a rare card?
No. It's just not often used.
Okay.
Because 1 damage isn't normally that important. But so what's happened is he's done a couple of weakened cards. Even my cards with 3 health have been weakened down to 1. So all of my cards, when I look, they've all got 1 health now, all of them. And the first thing I did was kill this very first card, which is this card that does 1 damage to everyone. And my entire team was wiped out in the very first round, the very first hit of the very first round, because I hit this 1 card that does all this damage. And so he didn't have a particularly impressive lineup, but he won the match, right? Because he'd successfully anticipated that I would play a lot of low health cards. And by applying, at least 2 cards that had weaken as an ability, he was able to reduce the health of all of my cards down to 1. And then it just cleaned me up in the first round. And he didn't even do anything. I acted first. I had the speed. I went first, hit his first card, and I had this ability and wiped me out entirely. So that's a legitimate strategy. Now, I could have gone the other way. I could have gone, I'm going to choose 1 high mana card, high health card, maybe self-healer, maybe something like a sea monster, for example, which is a big favourite of mine. It's got thorns, it's got self-heal, and I probably would have been fine, because I would have killed it and done, 1 damage. But there's only 1 card suffering 1 damage now, you see. So I've put all my eggs in 1 basket, but then that basket can take a little bit of a hit, because it's got a bit more weight to it. So the sea monster would have been the right choice there, but he correctly guessed what I'd do, and that's half the game, right? Is correctly guessing what the other guy's going to do. So
yeah.
And
I guess if you've got that, reduced to like 1 health, a card with trample could devastate you as well, then, couldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So trample normally will trigger when it kills with melee. There are cards that have magic as well, but with trample and magic, but it has to be a melee kill. It will then go again. It will attack, do another melee attack. There is a rule set called Stampede, which will let him continue to trample. Just trample. As long as he's killed somebody with each hit, he'll go again and go again. And there's been some impressive wipeouts with that, which is just lovely. A favourite of mine there is Exploding Dwarf and Giant Rock, because they both have trample.
Yep.
And Giant Rock has reach, right? So if you can speed them right up and put them at the start, then you've got 2 heavy melee guys that are going fast, and they both have trample. And if either of them kills somebody, and then the next guy, and then possibly the next guy and the next guy, you're going to clean up the opposition. So it's delicate and dangerous though, because if you don't manage to get that going, then your exploding dwarf will get wiped out because he's only got 1 health, right? So if they get a shot off with one of their magic dealers or a ranged guy who's fairly fast and isn't going to miss, then yeah. So that's more strategy, and that's something that you appreciate more as you play. You know, this is I guess we're just today I'm going to stop myself. We're just talking about cards, basic entry level card stuff. But I guess it is nice to know that there is a depth of gameplay possibility here, right? There is a real depth. It's not just blindly pick and hope. It's there is really it's a mental game between you and the other guy. And the better you know the game and the better the cards you have to beat him, then the more I guess you can, and the more satisfying it is when you do. The dragon splinter can choose any other single splinter to choose from. So you can have a dragon summoner lets you pick cards from the dragon splinter and the neutral splinter, but you also need to select, okay, which other splinter am I going to choose? And then you can just add fire cards or just water cards. So you'll never see a saber shark and a goblin shaman working together on the same team, because one of them's red, one of them's blue, and they just don't do that. But dragon summoner will take dragons and one other splinter. So that's a rundown of the splinters and the different cards that are there. They've all got high mana cards, low mana cards. They've all got commons, rares, epics, and legendaries. They've all got gold foils, regular foils, and there is a rule set and mana cap combination where each of those splinters has the best possible lineup, except if you know that that's being played, and then you can play a counter to that specifically. So it's about game knowledge, but the splinters are great fun to learn about and great fun to know. Some people try and get by with just one splinter or maybe 2 splinters. They just try and climb the leagues with that, and they just have 1 or 2 strong splinters. I don't recommend it, because too often the game will come up and it'll say, okay, you've only got 2 splinters to choose from, and if that's not one of the 2 that then that's basically an instant loss, because you just won't have the cards to be competitive. So.
Yeah. So when someone buys a booster pack or starter pack with the packs with the 5 cards, when they open the pack, it's going to be completely random, like what's in there. But if someone wanted to focus on a particular splinter, they'd have to go to the market and buy those cards individually. Is there at a beginner level, is there like a splinter for someone to focus on, or it really doesn't matter?
I think I'm a big fan of Earth Splinter. I love Earth. I have from the start. I would say Earth is my strongest splinter, both in cards and in how I play it, how well the affinity I have for it. The issue I guess becomes, you can focus on just having a couple of splinters that are a real focus for you to learn how to battle, but a big part of the game is sort of to know what's possible with the other splinters. If you say, I'm just going to learn water, that's all well and good, but you don't know what's coming at you when you've got a match that comes up and it's a low mana match and there's only water and fire available, then you need to know enough about the fire splinter to know what maybe is coming at me, right? Okay, it's low mana, so I know these particular cards aren't probably going to get played. Cards that are higher mana than what the rule set will allow. But you kind of need to know enough about the other splinters to be competitive, to know what might come against you, what might come up against you. So yeah, when you buy a pack, you'll open it. The packs are completely fungible right up until the moment of opening, and then the game will decide based on the data in that block on the blockchain. The RNG will fire up, and it will give you at least a minimum 4 commons and a rare. That's the absolute minimum, so you'll never see a pack with 5 commons, and then there's different rates of possibilities for getting rares, epics, and legendaries, and then whether that's gold foil or regular. And that's affected by potions too, which you can buy in the store or win for winning your quest, your daily and daily quest and season rewards. You get chests, and in those chests, as well as reward cards, there's also dark energy crystals or credits, but there's also potions, alchemy potions and legendary potions that will double your chance of pulling a legendary or a gold foil. So most people tend to run both potions when they're opening packs, and that's something that I would recommend. Back in the days of the $2 packs, it probably wasn't that important, but now packs are $4. It's the economics it makes a lot more sense to make sure. So I bought 4,000 packs of Chaos Legion, and I'm only opening those when I have enough potions won from quest and season rewards to justify it. So
maximize the chances. Yeah,
exactly, maximize the possibilities. So if you have 5 of each potion, then you open a pack because there's 5 cards in the pack. So opening one pack will consume 5 potions, but it will also mean that you're getting the best possible chance of getting gold foils and legendaries in the pack. So definitely something I'd recommend is have the potions. Most people who run the maths say, yeah, it's a no-brainer. And if you can't afford yet to get the potions, then just sit on the pack until you can, until you've won that in your quests and in your chests. So
that's really smart, because I've never even thought of that, because usually if I at the moment I'm hodling my chaos cards because I'm earning SPS airdrop points for having the pack. So I'm actually waiting for the end of the airdrop before I open them. But in the past, when I've opened cards, I've made a big deal of it, and I'll just open them all. And my potions might only last for the first 2 or 3 cards. I'd never that makes perfect sense. And it's a good way to spread yourself out. Because once you start opening packs, it's like, I want to open another one. I want to open another one.
It's easy to get addicted, and it's good because a lot of people don't enjoy opening a chest, and it's an alchemy potion, and they're a little bit bored of potions, and they're whereas for me, I like getting an alchemy potion because as soon as I have 5 of each, I'm going to treat myself to opening another Chaos Legion
pack. Opening a pack, so, I really like that idea.
Yeah, so but there's a lot. I think on the topic of cards, there is so much to know. Like you mentioned, you get SPS airdrop points just for holding cards. That's only for another 6 months or so. We're coming up on the halfway mark of the SPS airdrop. But holding assets in the game right now is really valuable and a really good idea, really good call. When I mentioned burning earlier, the SPS drop that you get is not based on the market value of the cards that you hold. It's based on what we call the deck burn value, which you can look up. It's based on the rarity and the foil in the edition of that specific card. It can be anywhere from, I think, 10 dark energy crystals up to 75,000 dark energy crystals, depending on which card you're holding. And at any point, you could burn the card for that. There's a little button there you don't want to accidentally press, which is, when you're on the screen, you hit the little tick box and then say burn. It'll say, you get the pop-up box. Are you sure you want to permanently destroy this card in exchange for this many dark energy crystals? So that's the burn value is what decides how much you get in the SPS airdrops. So
right,
and they're based on who owns the card. So if you're delegating the card to somebody else or renting it out to somebody else, that doesn't matter. It's still the owner that matters when it comes to the SPS airdrop. But again, that's only for the next 6 months. So if you're watching this in the second half of 2022, then probably disregard that because it's no longer relevant. But they might have rolled something else out by then. I don't know.
Yeah, you mentioned something before too with the printing, and I'm going to try and draw an analogy here. If I'm wrong, correct me, because I've never got into cards. Splinterlands was my first introduction to any sort of card game. Never got into Magic Gathering. The exception is when I was a teenager. Used to buy the bubblegum packs, and they had Kung Fu cards from the TV show with Michael Carradine. And that's the only time I ever, and we would swap them at school. And it was like, oh, I've got this card, that's worth 5 of those cards. But there was nowhere you could go to see that. It was like an agreed value on rarity or whatever. But the thing is,
just based on that schoolyards. I'm sure the exchange rates were different in other schoolyards.
Yeah. But when I go down to the local deli everywhere else in Australia, Milk Bar in Victoria, but when I go down and I buy a pack, take it home, I can put that in the drawer for 6 months. And when I open it, it's when I bought it, it's predetermined. Like those cards are not going to change. Whereas when you buy a pack of Splinterlands cards, what is in that pack is not actually determined until you open it. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it uses the blockchain data of that specific 3-second moment when that specific block when you opened it. It'll use that data to then generate which cards are in there from the available edition. From the pack that's being opened. So what's really funny too is that will change over time. So every million Chaos Legion packs that are sold, we get a new airdrop card gets announced. It gets revealed. The new one is looking pretty good. It just got announced today, so I don't recall his name, but he's dangerous and looks really quite impressive. If you open your packs today, he won't be in them. But if you open your packs, 6 months from now or 2 years from now, there's a chance he'll be in them. So the person who bought the packs directly from Splinterlands will get. It doesn't matter what they do with those packs. You could sell them all immediately, but you still get airdrop cards based on the number of packs that you bought. It just got announced today, so I don't recall his name, but he's dangerous and looks really quite impressive. If you open your packs today, he won't be in them. But if you open your packs, 6 months from now or 2 years from now, there's a chance he'll be in them. So the person who bought the packs directly from Splinterlands will get. It doesn't matter what they do with those packs. You could sell them all immediately, but you still get airdrop cards based on the number of packs that you bought, as if there were, as if those cards were available in the packs when you bought them, the day you bought them. But there are cards that say you take that pack and put it in a drawer for 6 months. Well, when you open it, there could be cards in there that are not even announced or even thought up yet, which is obviously not going to be the same with the Kung Fu cards, because they were printed in the factory before they went in the packet, before they went in the drawer.
Yeah.
And it's all been predetermined. Whereas if you buy a pack of Chaos Legion now and you open it 2 years from now, then there will be cards in there that, there's a good chance that there's cards in there that are not yet even dreamt of by the Splinterlands devs, because they're airdrop cards that will come later on in the process. So as we sell, each million, there's a new airdrop card included. So that's interesting and fun as well. So it depends when you open them as well, what you might get.
Yeah.
So I guess for me it was Batman, Michael Keaton, and Jack Nicholson. They were the cards. They were very popular when I was at school. I'd forgotten all about that till you mentioned it. I was like, oh, it's all about Batman. With his big long gun, his big revolver. He pulls his big long revolver out of his pants and shoots the bat plane down. And I remember that very well. Very dark and gothic. So the new card that's just been announced has an ability called Bloodlust, which we haven't seen in regular ranked play before. So if we're talking about cards, one reasonably new addition to the game is Guild Brawls. And Guild Brawls are a separate type of battle category, which is really interesting and worth talking about if we're talking about cards. So if you belong to a guild, the guilds will have fights amongst themselves. And in those fights, you win crowns and merits, which is a whole different sort of economy. Crowns and merits aren't transferable, so it's very different. It's sort of more of a personal experience, I guess. You're battling for your guild against other guilds. It looks a lot like ranked battles, but you'll have a specific tier. So you might choose you're going to be the Silver League. We call them frays. So you're going to go in the Silver League fray and represent your guild in the Silver League fray, which has Untamed and Chaos Legion cards available. You can't play alphas and betas. You can't play any other dice or any other editions. But in there you can also play gladiator cards. So when you've won some merits and you've upgraded your guild's been upgraded to the barracks and the arena and the store have been upgraded, you can use your merits to buy Gladius cases, which is a different type of card pack, non-transferable again, and in them are 5 gladiator cards. Now, these gladiator cards are non-transferable. You can't send them to somebody else. You can't rent them out to anybody else. They are locked to your account. the only way you could ever give them to somebody else is to actually sell them your account, right? Say, here's my name, here's my keys, this is your account now. So they're completely non-transferable, but they can be burnt for dark energy crystals. So they do have that value, that sort of floor value, and they also attract SPS airdrop points. So if you're in a guild and they say, hey, who wants to battle in this, in this upcoming brawl, definitely worth jumping in, pick a fray, do some winning, and you win some merits. You open the Gladius case. If you find something good in there, you find a good gladiator in there, then you're going to get SPS airdrop points for the whole rest of the next 6 months because you hold that gladiator card. So
Okay.
Definitely worth pursuing if that's not, a lot of people don't get involved in guilds and have never really explored it, but that's a whole other, I guess, fertile soil where there's a lot of fun to be had there. But up until now, the gladiator cards for the brawls and they're only available in brawls. You can't use them in ranked play, but they all have the bloodlust ability, and bloodlust it completely changes the dynamic. Each team in a brawl each team in a fray can only have one gladiator card in the team at a maximum. And that gladiator card with bloodlust will have all of its stats improve every time it kills an opposing card. Its stats improve. It does more damage, it gets faster, it gets more health, and it gets more armor. So they are brutal cards. Captain Katie's my favorite. She's a snipe magic. And so it's very often that she'll hit juicy targets in their back row with a decent, magic snipe, and that makes her tougher and tougher and tougher. And I've won a lot of battles with Captain Katie. Great fun, lots of fun. So Bloodlust is an ability that is really generally overpowered. The latest Chaos Legion reward, the latest Chaos Legion legendary that's just been announced as a airdrop card has Bloodlust. And so we're all sort of, whoa, hang on, I thought this ability was only for in guild brawls, but it's leaking into ranked now. So I don't know if it's going to become a common thing or if it's just this one card, but yeah, so he's shaping up to be an absolute brute.
Another thing I wanted to touch on just with cards is hodling for an investment opportunity. Now, you mentioned earlier that back in the day, like the packs were $2. So you got a pack for $2. And I was just checking earlier the alpha packs on Hive Engine. An alpha pack is now selling for $360 plus. So you bought it for $2. It's now worth $360. So that's an option too, isn't it? Just hodling as a pure investment, never even playing the game. You just buy a stack of cards, sit on them, and 2-3 pack releases down the track. This is not financial advice. This is for education and whatever purposes only.
No.
But
I'm just telling what experience I've had in the past. Yeah, no, that's entirely true. And it's all on chain. There's no risk that the devs will say, oh, actually those packs, you didn't buy them. Of course you bought them. It's on chain. It's known. Those tokens are in your account. No one can take them away. You can tokenize them. You can sell them anytime you like and pay. Be paid whatever the market will pay for them.
Yeah.
Which I think it's beautiful. I think I have 300 untamed and 100 of the original orbs. I reckon I have 100 of the original orbs. And so I'm not sure what orbs are worth, but it was reasonable last time I looked. And buy them for $2 and just sit on them for a while. See what happens. There's always going to be new people who really fall in love with that particular card, and they don't want to buy them off the market, or they just want the thrill of opening a pack and feeling what it was like in the early days to open an alpha pack. I've got a YouTube video of a couple of my kids opening 20 alpha packs or something like that, and
I made a video
back on it.
on back in the day opening alpha. I mean, like I think like 10 packs at double speed, just opening alpha packs. It's like yeah. But also,
so go on.
Just to say with the different packs, and again, we've talked before about getting onto Discord, joining the Discord Splinterlands channel, to interact and learn about this stuff, because it wasn't until the dice packs came out just from engaging with people, I had never even considered holding on to a previous pack. In fact, I remember now, it was you we were having a conversation with, because I was saying, like, you know, I've got, so my gameplay was restricted at the time because all my summoners were either alpha or beta packs, and you know, those cards now individually could be $150 a card, and as you mentioned, you know, 400 cards to, but it was just wasn't a possibility for me to go up. And you said, well, you know, you could always just, you know, if you really want to take a chance, you could just go and buy an alpha pack on Hive Engine. I was like, what do you mean? I didn't even know that people were doing that. I didn't know that that was a thing. And by this time, we're already into the dice packs. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start hodling some dice. And because I was starting to get into the gameplay at that point, I thought, okay, I'll just buy 1 pack a week. And after I got 3 packs, that's when the dice ran out. The dice packs ran out. So I've got 3 dice packs. I'm hodling 3 dice packs. But,
Nice.
yeah, it's just, there's so many aspects to it. And if you're all alone by yourself, not engaging with any community, you're missing out on so many options that you just don't know about. And by engaging with the Splinterlands community, like I did in that instance, you're going to learn stuff.
Yep, it's the unknown unknowns, and I think you're right about that. You need to go seeking out the unknown unknowns. What don't I know? Who can I talk to who might know, you know, what I don't know? It's, you know, in Discord, when this new he's a fire card with the bloodlust ability, when he was announced earlier today, guys were talking in Discord, and somebody pointed out, you know, actually Quid Yuff, a particular fire summoner, gives all of his cards pierce, which means that pierce is an ability that normally if you hit a card that has armor, you can hit it for 10 damage. But if it has 1 armor, all that you're going to do is strip off the armor, but all his health is fine. Right? So you hit the armor, as long as it's enough to destroy the armor, that's great. His armor's all completely gone. But none of that flows through to actually hurt his health. You need to hit him again. Pierce will, if you've got 10 damage and he only has 1 armor, that will do 1 damage to the armor, strip it off, and then do the other 9 damage to his actual health. So Pierce is really good for one-shotting heavily armored, you know, cards. And of course, the more damage your card does, the more you want Pierce, because the more likely it is that he's going to, you know, do more than enough damage to strip off the armor and substantially damage health. And somebody pointed out, Quid Yuff, this summoner has just jumped by $3. The cost to buy this summoner has jumped by $3 since they announced the, you know, that this new card's coming out, because to be summoned by Quid Yuff means this guy's far more likely to kill in a single hit, which, because of the bloodlust ability, will now improve all of his stats. And so people have very quickly worked out, oh, hang on. And it's really interesting to see the conversation around how quickly changes like this and observations about the game flow into the marketplace, where a new announcement can change all of the different pricing. And if you're not part of that conversation, then you like you said, you never know what information you're missing out on, what perspective you're missing out on. When somebody puts 2 and 2 together and goes, oh, hang on, what about this? You can often be in a position to capitalize on that. Somebody told me about Byzantinist actually tapped me on the shoulder the other day and said, oh, somebody's listed some cheap gold foil alpha flesh columns. I went, oh, okay, thanks, mate. I dived on them real quick, you know. So
how many have you got now of the flesh columns?
I think I've got the gold foils. I've got, I think, about 140. So I'm not quite a third of the supply of gold foil fleshies, alpha fleshies. But I have more than a third of the total in the regular foil. So I got 18,500, I think, out of the 51,000. So that's a lot. But I bought most of those for, you know, less than 3 cents. So and now they're I think they were $27 last I saw. They've been up to about 50, but they're down to about 27, I think. So I think when plots start to rise again, because plots are quite cheap at the moment too. So I've sort of been snapping up plots when I can. But I reckon when the plots start rising up again and those cheap plots go by the wayside, I might turn back to alpha fleshies and see if I can stack even more, like really keep pushing it, because, you know, I have so many now that, you know, adding more is always just a good idea, right? It's just an addiction now at this point. But you have a lot of a card when you work on percentages rather than absolute numbers.
Yeah.
1% of the supply or 5% of the supply. So I have a third of them, which you couldn't do with the current cards. Like, a card that's going to have a circulation of 500,000 copies. To try and get a third of that is just ridiculous, right? It's just way too many. But because there were lower print runs in the earlier days, you could get a substantial, like an actual share, a proportion of the total, without too much effort. So there is a guy who's doing it as well. Gold Matters has gold foil alpha lightning dragons. I think there were only like 7, and he has 4 of them or something like that. So from a proportion sense, I think he has actually I think he's actually the bigger, holding of a percentage of a print run of a card. But yeah, I have a lot of alpha flesh golems.
All right. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up here at that. We've covered a general aspect. And if anything we've talked about, you'd like us to get into deeper, like I've mentioned, we're going to have one episode per splinter, and then an episode all about attributes. So we can cover in detail any queries that you have. Or also, I'll pop Matt's mobile phone number down the bottom. You can ring him 24/7 with any questions that you have. But chances are, if you pop onto Discord, Matt's going to be there. Like he lives on Discord pretty much. So again, all part of the interaction. Any questions, get involved with Splinterlands community, or ask questions down below in the comments. And if you do ask a question in a comment, remember the engagement curation competition as well. Every comment, if it gets some engagement, has a chance of winning. And it is 10% of the post rewards every week are going to the comment that receives the most engagement. So comment, like, share, all that stuff. Anything in wrap up, or anything we haven't covered that you really would like to press on, Matt?
No, I think I'd say one other point that comes to me is coming up, and it'll be one of the things that we have arrive in the next few months. There are newcomers constantly arriving, and they're getting beaten by not necessarily an overwhelmingly powerful deck, but they'll look up the cards, and because there's a couple of alpha cards there, they'll go, oh, this guy beat me with a deck, just his team alone, just the cards he used to beat me cost $60,000. I can't possibly compete in this, in this arena, in this environment, because I don't have, not recognizing necessarily that, he could have also been beaten by a $200 team or a $100 team. Like it's, the market price of a lot of these cards isn't necessarily based entirely in their functionality in battle. There's other factors like scarcity and collectors like me. So the game is being split into 2 different formats. So there'll be 2 different reward pools for dark energy crystals and SPS1 in battle, and there'll be 2 different ladders that you can compete on. And so there'll be the wild format where all cards can be played, but there'll also be the modern format, which will be, I guess, the default for newcomers, which only allows the last 2 editions to play. So Chaos Legion cards and Untamed cards will be the only. And then when the main set after Chaos Legion Rebellion, I think it's called, when that drops, then modern will only be Chaos Legion and Rebellion, and Untamed cards will only be usable in wild. So we'll end up splitting into 2 formats. So if we're talking about cards, that's something to take into consideration. Plan for where you want to be. I plan to keep playing in wild. I'm not too interested in modern. I've got my cards that I like and all of that. But if you're a relative newcomer and you're thinking, I really want to focus on being at the cutting edge for as long as I can, and playing in the modern format for as long as I can against newer guys, and cards that if I get beaten by a card, I can go, oh, I might buy that, and it might cost me $50 to max it instead of costing me $5,000 to max it, because I'm competing in that modern in the modern ladder, in the modern format. So that's something to keep in mind when we're talking about cards. So I would recommend, if you're a brand newcomer and you're keen to just want to play in the modern format, then you're probably wanting to grab the Chaos Legion cards rather than untamed or beta or dice or orbs, and those are great, but if you're going to want to play in modern, you're not going to be able to use them in modern. So if you have those cards, still have plenty of value. You can use them, and you'll be able to use them in lands, in tournaments, all sorts of things. But if your focus is going to be modern, then I would suggest Chaos Legion. Stick to Chaos Legion. Get those cards, prioritize those cards, learn about those cards, and then you're going to be using them for a very long time, right? So not until the edition after Rebellion, which is the one after the current one, so it's a long way down the track before you have to worry about being out of the modern league if you've got Chaos Legion cards.
You mentioned that a couple minutes ago before too. So Rebellion, that's the next pack after Chaos Legion, is it?
Yeah, so there's main packs, which is Alpha, Beta, Untamed, Chaos Legion, and then Rebellion eventually. They're your main ones, but there are also there's also been the other, I guess, promo type packs. They don't have as big a circulation, more of a niche card, and that's your orbs and your dice. And then coming up, we have Rift Watchers. So Rift Watchers will be like the orbs and the dice. So you won't be able to buy them with outside money. You'll have to buy them with, and that's been the difference. So orbs and dice you had to buy with Dark Energy crystals. Rift Watchers you'll need to buy with SPS. But you won't be able to just buy them with outside money. You can't just wave a credit card and go, I want to buy Rift Watchers now. You need to have the internal currencies of the game.
Okay.
And that was true of dice and orbs as well before then. So coming up, we'll have the modern and the wild split, where you can, and you'll be able to choose which you'll be able to swap around. But if like I say, if you're just arriving now, best to just go with Chaos Legion and then just stay modern. And then you're not going to be facing a dazzling array of cards from 10 different previous editions and getting confused and lost. It'll feel a lot fairer, I think, if you're just arriving. But the around that time we'll have Rift Watchers as well, and then later on down the track, probably a year after Chaos Legion started, then we'll be looking at the next major edition, which will be Rebellion. So
all right. So if you stuck around to the end of this video, you've just been rewarded with a nice little tidbit there. All right. So next episode, I don't even know yet which Splinter. We'll talk about that during the week maybe, but next week will be dedicated to Splinter. Actually, how about this, Matt? If again, let's encourage the engagement. If you want us to talk about a specific Splinter, comment below, and whichever one is the most popular, that's the Splinter that we'll dedicate to the next episode. How's that sound?
Beautiful.
All right. Okay. And we're going to do a little disappearing trick again. Thanks for joining us again on another episode. And we're having a blast. I hope you're enjoying them too. And we'll see you on the next one. Bob Fett. Peace out.